So here's something interesting. Michael Chandler is actually showing respect to Dustin Poirier. Remember how Dustin has been pretty open about his frustrations with Chandler ever since their UFC 281 fight in 2022? Dustin called Chandler a cheater and even told RG3 a few weeks ago that he thinks Chandler has a fake personality, but guess what? The beef doesn't go both ways. Ahead of his upcoming fight with Paddy Pimblett, Chandler spoke with Shaq MMA and had nothing but praise for Poirier. "Man, he's an absolute legend," Chandler said with genuine admiration. "He's a guy who really grew up inside of the UFC, a guy who has earned his stripes, his hashtag paid in full. He really has paid in full for everything he's accomplished, everything he's done, the wins he's had, the losses he's taken, and the way he came back from those losses, fighting for the title numerous times. I think that's his legacy, and it'll be tough to watch for all the fans to see him lay the gloves down in New Orleans. Hopefully he can make that happen this summer, and I'll be there most likely." We still don't know who Poirier will fight for his final bout or when exactly it'll take place, but Beneil Dariush recently revealed to Submission Radio that he's hearing a Poirier-Holloway trilogy fight is in the works. Earlier in February, Poirier told Theo that discussions are about him fighting this summer in New Orleans, but nothing's confirmed yet. What do you think about Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway? Is this a fight you're excited to watch? Let us know in the comments below. After this weekend's UFC 313 card, where Justin Gaethje got back in the win column with a convincing victory over Rafael Fiziev, someone using Gaethje's account sent a pretty direct message to Dana White and the UFC. "Give him a title fight. I won 3 out of my last 4, only losing in an exhibition fight. I have to fight for the belt. Dana White, I'm ready." The way the post was worded made some fans believe it might be Gaethje's manager Ali Abdelaziz using his account. Going into Saturday's fight, Gaethje was pretty open about not being sure if a win over Fiziev would make him the #1 contender, but now after his UFC 313 win, he clearly feels like he deserves a title fight next. But hold on, Arman Tsarukyan, who gave an interview with MMA Junkie, doesn't think it's fair if Gaethje gets the next title shot. We reported recently that Islam Makhachev has been openly talking about wanting to fight Gaethje next. So the UFC has some amazing fights to make in the lightweight division. Names like Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and now Ilia Topuria all want the title shot next, and none of them have fights booked. It'll be really interesting to see who the promotion picks to fight Makhachev. Fiziev appeared on Tuesday's episode of the Ariel Helwani show, where he actually threw his support behind Justin Gaethje, saying that if a Fiziev versus Makhachev fight happens, he's on Team Gaethje. "I wish so much Justin Gaethje can fight for the belt," Fiziev said passionately. "I wish it so much, man. I think he deserves it more than anybody in this division, more than everybody for sure, and I hope he gets it. If he fights against Islam, I'm with him, I'm on his side." Fiziev went on to say he feels Gaethje should have gotten a crack at the title before losing to Max Holloway. As for Fiziev himself, following his second loss to Gaethje, he's thinking about making a big change. "I'm starting to think about changing weight divisions because I cut weight very easy this time, and this was short notice. These guys have trouble. If I come there, they'll be in trouble, man. Everybody." He revealed he's been thinking about dropping to 145 for quite some time, which could be really interesting given that the division is getting ready to crown a new champion. We might never see Conor McGregor returning to the octagon anytime soon or ever, but he seems very interested in something else right now. Last night, Conor McGregor tweeted at Joe Rogan telling him to respond to his messages. He's basically asking Rogan to let him appear on the JRE podcast. Here's what he said. "What's up, Joe Rogan? My man, I messaged you. Are you looking for a guest on the podcast? I have a great one for you. Do you want to see Conor McGregor appear on Joe Rogan's podcast?" This is actually really interesting considering the two were feuding for some time. For example, during UFC 229, Joe Rogan called out Conor McGregor for an illegal knee to Khabib. McGregor then went off on Rogan 4 years later in his infamous Twitter rant.
"That was an illegal knee on the head of a grounded opponent. Shut up, Joe, you little fool, yeah. What are you talking about? Smash this and smash that. What was smashed? My knee into his eye socket, yeah? Sake. That's a knee to a grounded opponent. Call the cops." Ticket.
After all of that, Joe Rogan made comments about Conor McGregor's PED use after breaking his leg. Conor then attacked Rogan on social media for never fighting in the UFC and only being in Taekwondo competitions. He even accused Rogan of PED use as well, which is weird given that Rogan has openly talked about his TRT therapy on the show. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this one plays out. While we're on the topic of Conor McGregor, last night McGregor was booed in his hometown of Dublin during a concert.
It sounds like you're in love with Conor McGregor here. And I'll be straight with you. From what I heard, he's actually out there right now.
This past weekend, Magomed Ankalaev captured UFC gold with a decision win over Alex Pereira, bringing an end to Poatan's light heavyweight reign. With Pereira focused on getting his belt back, it sounds like conversations about a potential move to heavyweight have been put on the back burner for now. The way Daniel Cormier sees things, Poatan would have had a tough time at heavyweight anyway. During the latest episode of Good Guy Bad Guy with Chael Sonnen, he said, "I don't think he's strong enough to go with anyone bigger. The amount of pressure that Ankalaev was able to generate without danger coming back at him, those heavyweights would kind of just walk right through what he was throwing at them." While some fans weren't too happy with Ankalaev's clinch-heavy game plan, Kamaru Usman put the blame on Pereira during the latest episode of his and Henry Cejudo's pound-for-pound show. "I'm not angry about the 3-2 decision for Ankalaev, but I think in that 5th round, Alex Pereira did come out with a little bit more sense of urgency. He looked like he was trying to fight and actually go to try to finish the fight, but Ankalaev would push him against the fence and wear him down again. Hey, it's your job to get off the fence. If you're not doing that, then why would the ref save you?" The way Henry Cejudo sees things, Pereira's rockstar lifestyle finally caught up with him. In response to his pound-for-pound co-host, Triple C added, "I think Alex Pereira's lifestyle is finally kind of catching up to him. The travel, the shama, a lot of the skits, and a lot of stuff that he's actually doing. It's really not doing him any service." The only reason why I say this is because his body looked a little different, dude. He looked a little pudgier, he looked a little thicker in the face. "Going in, we have to credit Magomed Ankalaev," Cejudo continued. "He did a really good job with his composure, bro. He didn't react to a lot of Pereira's things. The dude has his hands up the whole damn time. And it's not just that. But Alex Pereira also has trouble with southpaws. Given how long Pereira reigned over the division, Dana White has already confirmed that he'll be getting an immediate rematch. Following his UFC 3-1-3 victory, Magomed seems very impressed with his own performance. Last night, Magomed had this to say, "I just rewatched my fight again. 20 minutes of this fight was all striking, and most of this 20 minutes I was the one putting the pressure. The game plan was to use wrestling to open the striking, and I landed the hardest shots. I landed more significant strikes. Are you interested in seeing this rematch?" As for Alex Pereira, he seems to be in good spirits following his loss, continuously posting videos of him dancing and enjoying life the way it should be. Khamzat Chimaev has absolutely mauled some of the opposition he's faced in the octagon. While 5 of his 8 wins in the UFC have all been in the very first round, John Phillips, Gilbert Burns, and Kamaru Usman all managed to make it out of the first round, with the Burns and Usman fights both going to a decision. During an interview with Azamat Shev, Chimaev was asked who his toughest opponent has been. "Probably it was Usman," Chimaev admitted. "He defended against my wrestling very well. Wrestling is good. He defended my takedowns well. He didn't let me choke his neck. I tried to choke him for 5 minutes, but his defense was too good." The fight saw Chimaev go 4 for 2 on takedown attempts while racking up over 7 minutes of control time. However, just like he said in the video, he wasn't able to pull off a submission. Since Chimaev's win over Robert Whittaker back in October and Dricus du Plessis' victory over Sean Strickland in February, there's been no real word on when a Chimaev-DDP fight may happen. Despite that, all indications are that Chimaev is next for a title fight. Bilal Muhammad might think that Leon Edwards needs to wait 3 long years before getting another crack at the belt. But ahead of the former champion's fight with Sean Brady in London, Edwards is pretty confident that he'll get a crack at the title after Jack Della Maddalena and Shavkat Rakhmonov, so long as he gets the win. Ahead of the Edwards vs. Brady fight next weekend, Leon Edwards spoke about a rematch with Bilal Muhammad during a new video for his YouTube channel. In it, he chalked his UFC 3-0-4 loss up to an off night, saying that he needs to avenge the loss. Dana White...
I'd love to run it back with Bilal. You know, I feel like it's difficult to say he wins. Like I said, I probably prefer Bilal because he was the last guy to defeat me, you know, and even though at a off night, I feel like that's one I need to get back. You know, I truly believe that I am the better fighter between me and him, and go out there and prove it again. But now I'm focusing on Sean. Focusing on Sean Brady right now, and I gotta go out there in London, get rid of him, and then once I get rid of him, then Tarsha is next to me.
And Turkey Alal Sheikh are confident that their new boxing league will shake up the landscape of the sport. The way Ryan Garcia sees things, however, if Dana's new boxing league pays fighters just a small fraction of revenue, the new league may not even get off the ground. During an interview with Theo this past weekend, Garcia was asked about the endeavor, and in response, he quickly cracked a joke about fighter pay in the UFC.
What do you make of Dana White entering the world of boxing and teaming up with Sheikh Turkey?
Yeah, I mean, if they pay like the UFC, though, we might not like it. We might not like it, but I'm happy, Dana's getting involved. He's a great dude, and I'm sure they're going to do big things.
Then a UFC commentator allegedly read out a betting ad encouraging UFC fans to bet on the fight, saying that Alex Pereira is the underdog. They even went as far as allegedly telling the live viewership that you can still bet after the fight finished, all the way until the official decision was read out. Many people also noted that the scorecard took longer than usual to read out. With all this taken into account, many people are furious at the UFC for essentially scamming the casual fan base into thinking they could make money betting on Pereira, and then reading out a gambling ad redirecting the fan base to their sponsor. One user on TikTok called out this shady tactic with this video.
Things I've ever seen happen during the UFC 313 main event towards the end of it, where Alex Pereira and Ankalaev were fighting in round 5 with 21 seconds left. They showed the round-by-round strike numbers towards the end of the fight. With 21 seconds left, these were one of the most disgustingly misrepresented statistics I've ever seen. At the end of the fight, John Anik was announcing that the odds are on the board. They showed plus 100 Alex Pereira, and John Anik made sure everybody knew that you could gamble on the fights as long as the decision hasn't been read. The UFC and Vegas, knowing that a bunch of casual fans are watching Alex Pereira fight this 5-round fight, they showed completely false statistics to claim as if Alex Pereira was outstriking Magomed Ankalaev in 4 of the 5 rounds, then showing him at plus 100 and having John Anik read that you can gamble on the fights, especially commentating it, knowing everybody's watching, waiting for this decision, and then the decision being unanimous, one card being 49-46, and it taking that long to be read is a little bit suspicious, knowing you put the wrong stats on the board and showed that Alex Pereira was plus 100 after the fight. I've never seen the UFC have commentary explain that you could gamble right after the fight. Never. And if they have, they have never emphasized it to the extremity that they did in this fight, knowing how many casual fans were watching, especially after showing completely false statistics right as the fight was ending. These are the correct striking stats. You could see Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. These numbers do not add up to what they showed on that screen. When you look at the UFC stats website, they show round by round. Alex Pereira is red, Magomed Ankalaev is blue. You can clearly see they completely botched round 4 and round 5. They tried to make it seem where Alex Pereira was outstriking Ankalaev in those rounds. It was completely false. On top of that, they took away 2 strikes away from Ankalaev in round 2. Fine, I'll give you that as a mistake, but round 3 was so much wider of a discrepancy on the stats that they showed because it was such a close round that they wanted to make it seem like Alex Pereira ran away with it. This was genuinely disgusting. It is preying on people who are only watching Alex Pereira, trying to show them that, look, he's plus money. He's the underdog after he outstruck Ankalaev for 4 of 5 rounds.
At the end of the fight, the official stats came out, and surprisingly, they weren't even close. For Magomed, like we mentioned earlier, they displayed 64 significant strikes for him near the end of round 5 in the unofficial stats, and he ended up with 94, a difference of 30 significant strikes, which is a huge margin, whereas Alex Pereira only had a difference of 5 from the unofficial to official stats. Do you think the UFC scammed fans by insinuating that Alex Pereira was going to win, both on the commentary and by showcasing him landing more significant strikes, and then reading out a gambling ad saying he was the underdog while telling the fan base they could still bet on the fight? Here's what the MMA community had to say. The unofficial stats are always inaccurate, I know, but why they take so long to read a unanimous decision after they conveniently showed that Alex was plus money? And when it's a Powhatan fight, you know there will be casual fans watching who might not know they're inaccurate. If you watch the stat counter, they did the same for Strickland versus Adesanya. They had Izzy leading on strikes in the mid-fight stat counter. I agreed they tried to milk Powhatan hard with the betting line, but you should already know those strike stats are unofficial till after the fight. I've seen 30 additional strikes to be added to account after the fight. Was wondering why they took so long to get Buffer in there and read the scorecards. I remember watching and hearing this live and was like, what the? They never do this. Super sus. I thought the exact same thing. First time I ever heard them announce we can still place a wager before decision. Luckily, I had big Ankalaev moneyline. Once again, we're not saying anything was done wrong here by the UFC, as it could have been a simple mistake. However, a lot of people in the community were not too happy with all of this. A lot of people have an issue with this for new UFC fans, saying they're taking advantage of them for being uneducated in the scoring system. What do you think about the situation? Let us know down in the comment section below.